Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's session, which we're going to be talking about spiritual resilience and fatigue. Fatigue recovery. So why burnout isn't just about overwork. So that's what we're going to be talking today. We're just, like I said, we're just given a couple of minutes. Hey, so let's get started with today's session. Okay, so welcome everybody. It's really good to have you. So I'm thankful that you've made some time to be with me today. So that's really good. So that those who are here on the live, but also those who are going to be checking in on the replay, really appreciate that. So I believe this session is gonna speak to you in a powerful way. So that's my hope for you for today. So today we're going to name something that leaders often misdiagnose, and that's burnout. Because burnout isn't always about overwork. Sometimes it's about spiritual misalignment. So I'm just checking because more people are coming in, so I'll just keep checking it over there. But okay, so it's about misalignment. You see, when your leadership moves out of alignment with your values, then weariness soon follows. But here's the truth. This is something to really hold on to. Fatigue isn't failure. It's a signal. So you might want to write that down, and we are going to come back to that. So fatigue isn't failure. It's a signal. So by the end of today's session, my hope is that you'll walk away with a deeper understanding of what burnout is. A deeper understanding of why burnout is often a spiritual issue, not just a physical one. The ability to spot the subtle signs of misalignment before they kind of lead to illness or collapse, and also a few practical tools to renew your clarity, your energy, and resilience from the inside out. But before we get into all of that, just a reminder that our mission is to create a welcoming space where leaders are empowered to align their faith, their values, and ethics with their leadership. So that's what we're about. And the reason for doing that is so that you can lead with authenticity, with impact, and with integrity across every sphere of influence, whatever industry that you're in, and whatever level of management or leadership that you occupy. So that's what we're about. Okay, so today we're going to be looking into, like I said, we're going to be looking into what burnout really is and why it's often a spiritual issue, not just a physical one. So we're going to look at how you can recognize those or spot the subtle signs of spiritual misalignment before they lead to either negative emotions, to illness, or even collapse. We're going to be exploring some practical tools and practices for spiritual renewal on a daily basis, so in your daily leadership. And we're going to go through a very short reflective activity to help you identify, where you most need that renewal or that realignment right now. And then finally, an invitation to reset. Okay, so we're going to explore how we can walk this renewal journey together. So for those of you who don't know me, most of you do, but those of you who don't know me, I'm a leadership development coach dedicated to helping faith-driven leaders align their talents, their values, and their spiritual gifts. So my whole kind of mission, what I'm really interested in, is really, inspiring positive change, to build that ethical leadership as much as we can, and to empower purpose-driven leaders, purpose-driven individuals to leave a lasting legacy. So that's me. Okay, so I want to start with this reality. Okay, that burnout has become one of the most silent epidemics in leadership. So I'm going to say that again, that burnout has become one of the most silent epidemics in leadership. And so here's some research or some statistics around this very thing. So the Global Leadership Forecast, so that's in 2023, reports that 60% of leaders feel exhausted at the end of every day. So they feel exhausted, and that's at the end of every day. And nearly half, so some 44%, say that they feel used up at work. The Harvard Business Review, just letting somebody in. Harvard Business Review in 2023 found that leaders who cultivate purpose alignment, so that's that clarity between their values and their work, are 3 times more likely to report a high resilience and also satisfaction. Okay, so those leaders who cultivate a purpose alignment, actually are 3 times more likely to report resilience and satisfaction. Okay, and then a bit more. Okay, a bit more. According to the World Health Organization in 2024, 76% of professionals reported experiencing burnout symptoms at some point in their career. So 76% of professionals experience some burnout during their career. And yet studies by Gallup show that over 60% of those same individuals say that their exhaustion isn't due to workload, but it's due to a lack of purpose or value alignment. So I think that's pretty interesting. And then a bit more. So Gallup in 2024 revealed that employees who see their leaders demonstrate strong values alignment are 55% less likely to experience burnout themselves. So I'll say that again. So those employees who see their leaders actually demonstrate that values alignment are 55% less likely to experience burnout themselves. And then finally, if we go to the Barna Group, 2023, they found that 37% of pastors report being seriously burned out, citing emotional exhaustion and spiritual depletion as the top causes. So I think that's a reminder that no one is immune. Even those who lead in a faith space can experience this burnout. So I just think that's pretty profound, and I think it really makes you think. So my question for you, my first kind of question for you is, what are your thoughts when you see or you hear those statistics? What are your thoughts when you see or you hear those statistics? So I was kind of like, oh my goodness, that's a lot. A lot of people experience burnout wherever they are. And it just kind of put, sometimes what I experience or have experienced in the past puts that into perspective. And I guess the main thing for me is that, you can see that, managing your time, delegating tasks, or even if you take a break, the fact is, if your spirit is tired, then, none of that truly kind of restores you. Those kind of other things don't restore you if your spirit is tired. So I guess that's something to think about there. Okay, so let's talk about what's really happening beneath burnout. So as we've just kind of alluded to already, burnout isn't just physical exhaustion. It's often the result of prolonged disconnection between what you're doing and what you truly believe. So there's this disconnect between the two. So when your outer work stops reflecting your inner values, you begin to experience what I call spiritual dissonance. And that's the quiet ache of misalignment between calling and action. Okay, so spiritual dissonance. And that's why no amount of rest or caffeine fixes it. Because that type of fatigue, it isn't about your schedule. It's not in your schedule. It's in your soul. So I think that's something, again, for us to think about, that spiritual dissonance. Okay. Yeah, just make sure my slides are going in the right direction. Okay. So how do you know when your kind of weariness is more than just tiredness? Okay, so that's the thing. So how do you spot it? How do I know that, gosh, when I'm waking up, I'm feeling tired? Is this just because I've had some late nights? That project that I'm working on is taking more of my emotional energy, or is it something else? So here are some subtle signs of misalignment that often, that leaders often miss. So number one, I guess, or one of them is you feel productive but unfulfilled. So you're really busy, you're doing lots of stuff, but you quietly feel empty inside. So you may be hitting all your targets, doing a great job on the outside, but inside there's that emptiness. Or two, you may find it harder to make decisions with peace. Okay, so you're having to make quick decisions, but something just feels off inside. Even small kind of choices start to feel heavy, like you kind of lost your inner compass. So that's another sign. Or number three, this is a good one. The work that once inspired you now feels heavy or even draining. So there used to be a time when you kind of feel, oh my goodness, this is great. You can't wait to get out of bed in the morning to get on with stuff. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, do I have to? You may even notice some irritation or cynicism creeping into the things that once brought you joy. So again, the things that you used to really get excited about, you just notice there's a little frustrations, a bit of irritation creeping in. So that could be a sign that you're coming out of sync. And then finally, you sense a loss of connection. So this is number 5, a loss of connection. And that disconnection can be, to God, to others, or even sometimes yourself. So those are some of the signs. But what I want to say is, and these aren't signs of failure, they're just signals or invitations. So they're just signals or invitation. It's an invitation for you to pause, to realign yourself, and to let God restore what's been strained. So it's an invitation. Okay, so I don't know what you think about that. Again, just drop your thoughts in the chat. That would be absolutely brilliant. Okay, so let's take this a little bit deeper. Let's take this a little bit deeper. When our leadership becomes detached from the source that fuels it, so for us as believers from God, our strength starts running on empty. So when our leadership detaches from the source that fuels it, then our strength starts running on empty. But what I want you to notice is that renewal doesn't come from striving harder. That's not where renewal comes from. It comes from resting deeper in God's presence. Now that might sound kind of counterintuitive. So it's not from striving and working harder, but from resting deeper in God's presence. See, the issue isn't always overwork. Sometimes it's an over-reliance on ourselves. It's an over-reliance on ourselves. And as believers in Christ, when we try to lead purely from our own strength, that fatigue will eventually follow. I just think it's a great reminder in Isaiah 40:31 that reminds us, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. So I think that's just a great reminder. Okay. So the next question, obviously, logically will be, so how do we recover from this kind of fatigue? How do we actually build that lasting resilience that we can count on over time? So I don't know, but if you saw my posts earlier on in the week, I shared 3 simple daily practices that can kind of anchor your renewal. So there's a prayerful pause, a peace check-in, and an evening moment of gratitude. So these are very small steps that I often encourage leaders to actually explore, because sometimes it's just the very simple shifts that make the biggest difference in how we lead. So let's just take them one by one. So number 1, so start your morning with a prayerful pause. So even 5 minutes of stillness before the Lord can actually reset your outlook for the day. So it's not about doing more, it's about being present with the one who has the ability to restore. Okay, so just 5 minutes of stillness in the morning can make a difference. And then number 2, around midday or lunchtime or in the afternoon, depends on your kind of what your day looks like, is take a breath to check in and ask yourself, am I leading from peace or am I being pulled along by pressure? So am I leading from peace or am I being pulled along by pressure? Now, that one question can help to recenter your heart, can shift your posture, and actually realign your focus for the rest of the day, the week, or the tasks ahead. Okay, so just take that midday or midday time to check in. And then number three is about the evening or the night time, again depending on your schedule. So end your day in gratitude. Really look at and be able to say thank you for what has transpired. Be grateful for those conversations, the connections, whatever has happened in your day. Just have that moment of gratitude, because what that does, it actually renews your perspective and reminds you that God's still writing your story. God's still writing your story, even in those seasons of strain. So those are just three things there. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on these just really simple rhythms of renewal that you can build into your day? So just, chat, put some of those in the chat, just in terms of your thoughts on these simple rhythms of renewal. Um, yeah, I mean, I do find that when I kind of like stop and really, I mean, I love the morning ones, when you kind of wake up, it's in the dark, just as you're just kind of coming into the world, and you're kind of like, Lord, do you know what I mean? It's just those moments are, I just think, are priceless, and they really do set you up for the day. But those other moments, I think they're good too. So yeah, it's good to see your thoughts on there. That's great. Okay. So I guess the thing to think about is, do you already include some of these? Do you include all of them? Some of them, or which ones are actually in your spiritual practice? I remember I was doing a course, teaching a weekend retreat one time, and we were looking at tools for prayer. And so one of the tools that we had was to set up a kind of trigger for yourself, so that at certain points in the day when you've decided that you want to, in the drop into prayer, have those moments of prayer, that you have, you set yourself a little trigger. And I just remember one of the participants actually then went away to set a daily alarm at a certain point in the day. I think it's around like 2 o'clock, where Jesse would just take, a couple of minutes out just to reflect and to thank God for his day. So again, think about whether you want to use all of them or some of them in your spiritual practice. I just thought I'd throw that one in. Okay, and the next bit then, and so it's just that time just to take a very quick interactive reflection. So we want to just take a moment to reflect. And so what I'd like to encourage you to do is to think about the last 2 weeks of your leadership journey. So the last 2 weeks of your leadership journey, where have you felt most out of sync? And that's out of sync in your energy, in your clarity, so your thought processes, or just in that sense of peace, kind of out of sync with that peace within. So just think about that. So maybe you've been pushing hard, but feeling spiritually dry. So that can often happen. Possibly you've had clarity in your vision, so you know what you're about, but you just felt disconnected from joy or those positive emotion that goes with it. So very clear about what you need to do, but feeling kind of disconnected in terms of those positive emotions. Or perhaps you've been carrying everyone else's needs, but not tending to your own alignment with God. So again, we can get so busy taking care of staff, taking care of other people that we have responsibility for, but not tend to our own alignment with God. So I don't know where you've been on that. So just take a moment and just type one word in the chat that captures where you most need renewal or restoration today. So just one word or a phrase that says where you most need that restoration or renewal today. Okay, so just where would that be? And I'll just wait a moment to see what you come up with. Okay. So yeah, there is that whole thing about taking care of everybody else. So that's definitely one, is making time for yourself and God rather than just making time for everybody else. It's putting yourself in the equation. So again, that takes intentionality, but that's a good one. Yeah, so a couple of those. Okay, and again, just the sheer amount of work that needs to be done, and just kind of feeling that, oh my goodness, that's taking priority over kind of my spiritualness, and so feeling that kind of emptiness on the inside. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so we're clear that there are some times when we definitely need that. And what I kind of always suggest is when you take a moment, obviously we've put something in the chat, but if you're journaling, if that's your practice, then I want to encourage you to write things down. Okay, if you're the person you don't journal, you speak out loud, and speak it out loud. Bring whatever it is before the Lord, because it's what we name in his presence that often is the first step towards restoration and healing. So actually verbalizing it or writing it down in the presence of God can be the first step to making a change. Okay, so that's great. So thank you for that. And again, I just want to say, remember that it's the act of naming your need in this area that is often the first step in the healing process. Yeah, so that's cool. And it just reminds me of somebody that I've been working with recently. So working recently with a leader who described his burnout like this. He said it felt like I was driving with one foot on the accelerator and one foot on the brake. I thought that was a really nice analogy. So that's what it felt like when he was experiencing burnout. And then he went on to say that he wasn't overworked. He was overextended spiritually. So he was just giving out, while still maintaining his current level of work. And then he said that once he began to starting his mornings with prayer, so just pausing first thing to ask God to order his steps and to show him his will for the day, he said he began to notice a shift. His energy lifted, his decisions carried a sense of peace, and his joy slowly, it was a journey, but his joy slowly returned. Okay, so that's just taking that one step. And I've seen it happen in our faith-inspired leadership community as well, where leaders create room for God to breathe into their work. Renewal always follows. So that's just something to think about. Okay, so we're kind of getting ready to kind of come to the end of our session. So here's a shift that I want to leave you with today. So here's the thing, you don't need to chase harder. Maybe you just need to realign your heart. So it's not about doing more, it's about that act of realignment. And also, spiritual resilience doesn't come from striving, it comes from staying connected to God. So it's not about doing things all on your own and doing it at speed. It's about actually staying connected to God and working in his way. And when your faith fuels your leadership, that energy flows naturally. Yeah, so when your faith fuels your leadership, energy flows naturally. And when your purpose aligns with your practice, and when the two are in sync, peace becomes the fruit of your leadership. So I think there's just some things to think about as we kind of come towards the end. And so just a bit of research to throw in at the end. According to a 2024 Deloitte global study, 84% of leaders say that reconnecting to personal purpose dramatically improves their energy and their focus at work. And also, the Harvard Business Review found that leaders who intentionally nurture their spiritual well-being, so people who put effort into really giving space for their spiritual well-being, are 23% more resilient under pressure than those who don't. So that's something, hopefully that will encourage you. So that's the power of spiritual renewal. It's not just inspirational. It's not just something that makes you feel good. It's actually transformational. So that's kind of what I want to leave you with, some thoughts. So as we close, I just want to leave you with this other thought, okay? So fatigue, or reminder, fatigue isn't failure. It's an invitation. It's a call to slow down, to realign, and let God restore what the world or the world of business has drained. So if you're ready to take the next step to rebuild your, just getting my notes here. So if you're ready to take that next step to rebuild your kind of strength from the inside out, then I'd love to invite you to book a business faith reset session with me. So it's a free personal one-to-one space where we'll just look at your leadership, look at where your leadership may be out of alignment, and create a plan to renew your clarity, to kind of re-establish that peace, and also to be clear about your purpose. So that's kind of what that's about. And also, I want to encourage you to consider joining the Faith Inspired Leadership Lab membership group. You can always make contact with me and I can tell you more about that. But I want you to remember, so please scan the QR code, and there's also a link in the chat to book your reset session. And just remember that you don't need to carry this alone, because you were never meant to. Okay, that's not what this is about for you. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you on the inside, as they say. Okay, and like I said, any other questions you've got, any thoughts, please just feel free to just keep putting them in the chat. Just keep putting them in the chat, and then we can answer those. Make sure we get those answers to you. So that's fine. And then just then to finish then, I want to thank you for being part of today's session. I really do appreciate that. I hope that it has stirred something meaningful for you. That whole idea of when we're out of sync, there are some pointers of how we can get back into sync and feeling, really good, and making sure that our leadership and our faith are together. Don't forget to note down where you're going to apply what we've learned this week. So do you need to add those practices in? Do you just need to remember to do them? Or is there something else that you want to add in to help you? Feel free, like I said, to drop any final insights or questions in the chat, or reach out to me directly, because I really do love hearing, how these sessions are impacting your leadership journey. And don't forget, to look out for the reflection worksheet. So there's a reflection worksheet that's going to be emailed out to you, that's going to capture all of what we've talked about and give you those opportunities to reflect as well. And I'll stay on for a few minutes for any final comments or questions before we close. Okay, but just as we get ready to end the recording, I just want to leave you with this. Jesus invites us to come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Now, he's encouraging us to rest in him. So I hope, my prayer is that you will find rest, not just in body, but in your spirit. That may your clarity be restored, your courage renewed, and your purpose reignited. So I want to thank you for being here, and until next time, stay blessed. God bless you. Just going to stop the recording. And